Your person has reached a moment they never believed would arrive. For a long time, they convinced themselves that silence was safer than honesty, that carrying the weight alone would somehow protect both of you from a reality they were afraid to face. But silence has a way of growing heavier with every passing day, and what once felt possible to hide has now become impossible to contain. Something has shifted. The walls they carefully built around this truth have begun to crack, and the confession they have avoided for so long is moving closer with every heartbeat. There are moments in life that arrive quietly. They make no loud announcement. They do not demand attention. Instead, they approach like a gentle wind before sunrise, carrying a feeling that something unseen is about to change everything. This is one of those moments. If this message has reached you today, do not dismiss it as another coincidence. Sometimes the most important answers arrive when your soul is finally prepared to recognize them. Stay with this message, because what unfolds next has the power to change the way you understand everything that has been happening around you. Your person has spent countless nights revisiting memories that once seemed ordinary. Conversations that lasted only minutes now echo inside their heart with a completely different meaning. Small moments they believed had been forgotten continue returning to them again and again, each one carrying another piece of the truth they have tried so hard to keep hidden. They have realized that every attempt to move forward without revealing what they know has only pulled them deeper into a place where fear has become impossible to ignore. They often wondered whether time would solve everything on its own. They hoped that life would somehow erase what had been left unsaid. They believed that enough distance, enough distractions, enough ordinary days would slowly bury the truth beneath new memories. But truth does not disappear simply because it is ignored. It waits patiently. It follows every step. It grows stronger in silence until the day arrives when it refuses to remain hidden any longer. There have been moments when your person looked at you and almost spoke. Their heart urged them to tell you everything, yet the words never came. Instead, they chose another smile, another ordinary conversation, another quiet goodbye while carrying emotions far heavier than you could ever imagine. Each time they remained silent, they believed they were protecting you. But deep inside, another voice kept whispering that true protection can never exist without honesty. As these thoughts continued to grow inside them, something unexpected began happening. The very memories they wanted to forget started returning with incredible clarity. Faces, places, words, and promises they thought had faded suddenly felt alive again. It was as though every forgotten chapter had reopened, reminding them that unfinished truths never remain buried forever. They always find a way back into the light. And while all of this was unfolding inside them, you continued walking your own path, unaware that someone close to you was carrying a burden that had become impossible to ignore. You noticed small changes without fully understanding them. Perhaps there were moments when their silence felt different, when their eyes seemed lost in distant thoughts, or when they hesitated before answering questions that once came so easily. Those moments were never meaningless. They were quiet signs of a heart struggling between fear and truth. The strange thing about destiny is that it rarely rushes. It allows people every opportunity to make their own choices before finally placing them at a crossroads where avoiding the truth is no longer possible. Your person has now reached that crossroads. Every excuse they once relied upon has slowly disappeared. Every reason for waiting has begun to lose its strength. What remains is only one question. How much longer can they carry this without changing both of your lives forever? Something inside them has awakened during these recent days. It is not anger. It is not regret. It is something much deeper. It is the realization that some truths are not given to destroy relationships but to rebuild them on a stronger foundation. Yet understanding that truth does not make speaking it any easier. Fear still whispers. Doubt still lingers. The possibility of losing your trust weighs heavily upon their heart. Even so, another realization has become impossible to silence. They know that every day they wait increases the distance between honesty and opportunity. There comes a moment when truth must arrive before circumstances change beyond recognition. They feel that moment approaching now with extraordinary intensity. If you have felt unusual emotions lately, if your intuition has been quietly telling you that something beneath the surface is changing, if certain thoughts continue returning without explanation, do not ignore those feelings. Sometimes your spirit notices movement long before your mind understands what is happening. There are seasons when unseen answers begin surrounding your life before they are finally revealed in plain sight. Your person has reached the point where pretending everything is normal has become more exhausting than telling the truth itself. They wake with the same thoughts. They carry them throughout the day. They lie awake at night wondering whether tomorrow will finally become the day everything changes. Their heart is caught between the comfort of silence and the freedom that only honesty can bring. But what they are preparing to reveal is not simply about one conversation. It reaches much deeper than that. It touches choices that were made long ago, moments that seemed insignificant, decisions that quietly shaped the direction of both your lives without either of you fully realizing it. What once appeared ordinary now carries a completely different meaning when seen through the light of truth. And this is exactly why this moment feels so significant. Because once the first words are spoken, the pieces that never seemed connected will begin fitting together in ways neither of you expected. Questions that remained unanswered for so long will finally begin finding their place. Confusion will slowly give way to understanding. Yet before that happens, one final barrier still remains inside your person's heart. They must decide whether fear deserves one more day, or whether honesty deserves this moment. That decision is closer than ever. The silence surrounding that decision has become almost impossible to carry. Every passing hour feels like a quiet countdown, as though life itself is gently reminding your person that certain moments are not meant to be postponed forever. They have discovered that the longer a truth remains hidden, the louder it speaks within the heart. Even in ordinary moments, when everything appears calm on the outside, an invisible conversation continues inside them, asking the same question over and over again: what happens if tomorrow arrives before the truth does? There were times when they convinced themselves that revealing everything would only create confusion. They believed that leaving the past untouched would allow both of you to keep moving forward without disruption. Yet every attempt to protect the present by hiding the truth only created a deeper uncertainty within them. They began realizing that peace built upon unanswered questions can never remain steady for long. Sooner or later, reality asks to be seen. As this realization settled into their heart, they started noticing something they had overlooked for far too long. Every meaningful connection carries moments that seem ordinary at first but later reveal extraordinary significance. A sentence spoken without much thought. A meeting that felt accidental. A delay that once appeared frustrating. A choice that seemed small at the time. Looking back now, they can see how those moments quietly formed a path leading toward this very point. The more they reflected, the more impossible it became to ignore the pattern. It was as though every memory had been patiently waiting for the right season to reveal its true purpose. Details they once dismissed suddenly carried weight. Emotions they tried to silence returned with unexpected clarity. What once felt like isolated moments now appeared connected, like pieces of a story that had always belonged together but were only now becoming visible. Your person has spent many quiet evenings wondering how you will respond when everything finally comes into the light. They imagine the expression on your face. They imagine the silence that may follow. They wonder whether you will immediately understand or whether the truth will take time to settle within your heart. These thoughts have followed them everywhere, not because they doubt your strength, but because they know that honesty has the power to reshape the way people see the past. Even now, they are rehearsing conversations that have never happened. They think about every possible word, every pause, every explanation. Then they begin again, hoping to find the perfect way to say something that may never have perfect words. Some truths cannot be softened. They can only be spoken with sincerity, patience, and the hope that understanding will eventually replace uncertainty. What surprises them most is not the truth itself, but how long they believed they could carry it alone. At first, it seemed manageable. Then it became a quiet burden. Now it feels like something far greater than themselves, something that no longer belongs hidden inside one heart. They understand that certain truths are not meant to remain the possession of one person. They exist because they are eventually meant to be shared. And while all of this has been unfolding, you may have sensed subtle changes without knowing why. Perhaps certain situations have felt strangely unfinished. Perhaps you have found yourself thinking about someone unexpectedly, or remembering moments that had long faded into the background. Sometimes the heart begins preparing for an answer before the answer actually arrives. Your person has also begun recognizing another truth, one they never expected. Fear loses its power the moment honesty becomes more important than comfort. That realization has changed something within them. They are no longer asking whether the truth should be spoken. Instead, they are asking how they can speak it in a way that honors everything both of you have shared. This inner transformation did not happen overnight. It came slowly, through moments of reflection, through long periods of silence, through questions that refused to disappear. Every experience has led them closer to understanding that genuine connection cannot fully grow where essential truths remain hidden. No matter how carefully silence is maintained, it eventually creates distance where closeness was meant to exist. Now they find themselves standing before an invisible doorway. On one side is everything familiar, the conversations that continue as though nothing has changed, the routines that feel safe, the comfort of saying only what is easy. On the other side is something unknown, yet undeniably necessary. Beyond that doorway waits honesty, clarity, and the possibility of finally putting down the weight they have carried for far too long. The remarkable thing is that this moment is not only transforming them. It is preparing to transform you as well. Not because your life has been built on deception, but because every meaningful journey eventually reaches a point where hidden pieces become visible. Growth often begins with revelation. Understanding often arrives through moments that initially seem unexpected. What feels uncertain today may soon become the very answer that allows everything else to make sense. Your person understands this now more clearly than ever before. They know that once the truth is spoken, neither of you will be able to return to the way things were. Yet they also believe that moving forward with honesty is far better than remaining still with unanswered questions. That belief has become stronger with each passing day. It is giving them courage where fear once lived. It is replacing hesitation with quiet determination. And without realizing it, they have already taken the first step toward the conversation that once seemed impossible. Now only one step remains, and with every passing moment, they are moving closer to taking it. Yet as that final step draws closer, something unexpected begins happening within your person. The fear that once controlled every decision is slowly being replaced by a quiet sense of purpose. They are no longer asking themselves whether the truth should remain hidden. Instead, they find themselves wondering why they waited so long to let honesty find its place. There comes a point when carrying a secret becomes heavier than facing the unknown, and they have finally reached that point. Every morning now feels different to them. The world looks the same, the routines continue, conversations come and go, but beneath everything lies a silent awareness that life is preparing to change. They notice ordinary details with unusual clarity. A familiar place suddenly reminds them of a forgotten memory. A simple song brings back emotions they believed had disappeared. Even the smallest moments seem to whisper that the season of silence is coming to an end. As these quiet reminders surround them, they begin looking back over the journey you have shared together. They remember the moments when trust was built one conversation at a time, when hope quietly replaced uncertainty, and when your connection became something they never expected to value so deeply. Those memories are no longer just recollections of the past. They have become the reason they know they cannot continue hiding what was never meant to stay hidden forever. There were opportunities to speak before, but each one slipped away. Sometimes the timing felt wrong. Sometimes circumstances became too complicated. Sometimes they convinced themselves that waiting just a little longer would somehow make everything easier. But time has taught them something important. Waiting does not always create clarity. Sometimes it only creates more distance between the truth and the person who deserves to hear it. That realization has changed the way they see everything. They no longer measure the future by how comfortable it feels. They measure it by how honest it can become. They understand now that genuine peace cannot grow where essential truths remain locked away. Even the strongest connection begins to feel incomplete when one heart carries words that were always meant to be spoken. At times, they have imagined what life might look like after everything is finally revealed. They picture the silence that may follow the first conversation. They picture the questions you may ask. They imagine moments of reflection where both of you begin looking back with completely different eyes. Some memories may suddenly make sense in ways they never did before. Certain choices may finally reveal the reasons behind them. Pieces that once appeared unrelated may quietly fall into place. This is why your person believes the truth carries more than information. It carries understanding. Understanding has the power to heal confusion. Understanding has the power to replace assumptions. Understanding has the power to transform uncertainty into wisdom. And perhaps that is why they have finally stopped running from this moment. Deep inside, they have begun accepting something they resisted for a very long time. Not every difficult conversation exists to separate people. Some conversations exist because they become the bridge toward something far stronger than either person imagined possible. They have started believing that honesty, even when difficult, is an act of respect toward the person who deserves to know the full story. There is another reason their heart refuses to remain silent now. They have realized that every decision made without complete understanding has the potential to shape the future in ways neither of you intended. They do not want another season to pass while important pieces remain missing. They do not want you building tomorrow while unknowingly carrying unanswered questions from yesterday. That thought has become impossible for them to ignore. If you have ever wondered why certain events unfolded the way they did, if you have questioned why some moments felt strangely unfinished, if your heart has quietly searched for answers without knowing exactly what it was searching for, there may be more to those feelings than you realize. Sometimes your spirit recognizes that a missing piece exists long before your mind discovers where it belongs. Your person has experienced this same feeling every single day. The difference is that they know where the missing piece has been all along. They have carried it within themselves. Now the weight of that responsibility has become too great to keep hidden. Thank you for staying until the end of this journey. May your path be guided by wisdom, your heart be strengthened by peace, and your steps always lead you toward clarity, hope, and the truth that sets every new beginning in motion.